Welcome back to What Would You Ask podcast. My guest today has the distinction of being the only returning guest to this show. And don't think out there that I've asked everybody and everybody said no except her and we paid her. That's not what I'm talking about. We asked her and she accepted because the first interview was so good, but we did not have it on video. We wanted to get this on video. And we had so many questions for her that we wanted to reach out back to her and make sure that she completed all of the questions that are part of the deal. So, and we have a lot to talk to her about. So I want to re-welcome to the program, Liebelei Lawrence. Welcome to What Would You Ask podcast.
Thank you for having me back. The first time was a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to everything you're going to throw at me today and just a general fun discussion and chat we'll have.
Awesome. So am I. So let's just get into some of the fan questions. And Will from Knoxville asks, who was your roommate? I don't remember. Forgive me. And did you strategize about the competition?
I didn't have a roommate, so you're absolutely forgiven for not remembering.
How did you guys had your own rooms? I didn't even know that.
Our own rooms.
Wow. That's it.
So I think, well, actually, no, I know that's different from some other big breaks where everybody's been in one house, one on top of each other, which of course leads to a little bit of the potential drama which can unfold. In our case, we were all in the same building, but we all had our separate rooms. So I don't know if you can recall kind of the videos from the outside of the resort. It's kind of like a compound where everyone had one big massive room and absolute just luxury. So no roommate, and strategizing with my roommate, no. We did of course try to strategize with teammates outside of our rooms.
Got it. Vito from Staten Island. Shock. Vito from Staten Island. There's a shocker for you. First impression of the resort, the food, the golf course. Were you blown away? That was it. Question.
That was that's easy to answer. Yes, I was blown away. I know that sometimes the videos can seem like we're awing and oohing, and it's can be, I don't know if it comes across as genuine, but we were all absolutely awed. The resort is massive. As soon as you come in, you're just blown away by the beauty. The pools, and our building was right on the beach, so it was just incredible. And the food was really good too. Too much food though.
Hector from DC says, Lala, you were my favorite by far. Did you have a strategy going into to Big Break? Was it Lala was your nickname? Is that right?
Lala was my nickname. That made me smile now just hearing that. I haven't heard it in years.
Hector, how about that? Lala. I thought he made that up. But then I remember you did have everybody's calling you Lala. Good job, yeah. Hector. He wanted to know if you strategized. What was your strategy going into Big Break? Did you have one? Like, to survive in advance, I imagine.
To be honest, if I'm not going to try and make an overly confident formulation of my response, it really was just survive. Don't make a fool of yourself was the other one. And then provided you survive and don't make a fool of yourself, just try to get as far as you can.
There you go. Ricardo from Cary, North Carolina asks, lots of viewers suspect people that go on reality shows to become famous and start a career. Did you have any of those on the show? I'm confused by that question.
I'm interpreting the question well.
Oh, I think he means contestants that get the opportunity to get on TV, and that be a jumping point for them to kind of be on TV, I guess.
Have a TV career?
Yeah, that's kind of weird because this is about golf. I mean, I get it on some other shows, some of the reality stuff, but there's a little difference here. Any feedback to
that? So I think the feedback to that would be, well, actually one does come to mind, Sarah Radley. So Sarah Brown, now Sarah Radley, she went on to become a superstar on Golf Channel. So she would be one of them. I can't think of anybody else actually.
What's her name that replaced her? She just had a baby a little while ago. Oh boy, I'll think of her name. I can't remember her name. Blonde girl. Anyway,
Sarah just had another baby too.
Who did?
Sarah.
Oh, really? Wow. Jeez. Let me ask you a question because it's interesting. I was just thinking about this, about like what, and trying to define that question a little bit more. Have you ever considered going on a reality show? Amazing Race, Survivor? You would be, from what I know of you now, you would be like candidate A. Let me just give you the example. There's always some type of occupation or some type of hobby or both that separate these things. Let me give you the profile. I'll be your agent, get you signed up with both those places. Professional golfer, right? Yoga instructor certification that has traveled the world to do that and play golf, and just has a unique perspective, I guess. I don't know. You think you would be real, and in this calming kind of, I don't know, you look like a perfect candidate for one of those shows. Any thought of ever trying something like that?
No.
No, never. Let's move on.
Was the one and only thing I ever wanted to participate in, and everything else. I mean, not to say that I'll never change my mind, but I think reflecting on it now, it just hasn't had that same appeal. Big Break was like the holy grail of reality.
No, I get it. I get it. I'm just, what's interesting about it is we have started a couple series. The Big Break has spawned into Survivor series for us and Amazing Race. And to talk to some of those people, it's similar, where there's a mental strain and there's a physical strain, and it's challenging, and it's about dealing with people and looking inward at yourself and trying to get the best out of who you are physically and mentally. There's a lot of that, and a lot of things that, and all of these things. And then there's other shows. I'm not going to mention any names because we might sign them up on our here, but there's other ones that are kind of mind numbing, and you go, wow, there's really no thinking at all required in this show, or any kind of, and so you kind of pass on those. But I'm just wondering, because I've met some really interesting folks in Amazing Race and in Survivor as well. So just wanted to throw that.
I think they sound fun, to be honest. I guess maybe I haven't really ever thought of myself as a person that would, one, fit the profile, two, really stand a chance. So I think the challenges as such, both from a mental, logic, kind of tactical, and physical approach, I think would be fun. Some of them are terrifying, so maybe I just don't have the guts to do it, but it can be fun.
That's honest.
Maybe one day.
There you go. Mel from Houston, were you surprised by the eventual winner? And who else did you think would be there at the end? It's a fair question.
Surprised by the eventual winner? No, because I know that Taylor, I knew at the time that Taylor was an absolutely incredible golfer. Would I have put my money on her? To be honest, probably no, just because we had Brent and Jay. So throughout the whole show, I would have put my money on one of them.
So Brent and Jay, Brent I talked to and Jay were scheduled to speak with. I talked to Brent actually this week. I think we spoke Monday. He said, when I asked him who he thought would be there in the end, he replied, him or Jay from the man's side. And I asked him, is there anyone else? And he said, no. He said it was him or Jay, and he knew Jay's game. They knew each other previous, and actually became a lot closer afterwards. And they lived together and did a lot of stuff together, and da-da-da. You probably know more about it than I do, so I'm telling you. And then he said his three women were Taylor, yourself, and Stephanie were the three women that he thought had a chance to win it all. And he mentioned that he had Stephanie and Taylor until he went up against you in that match, and said she was definitely a candidate for winning the whole thing. And you guys remember the match I'm talking about, because I'm so impressed by it. I still think it's the best head-to-head elimination match. We're going to talk about that a little bit from Brent's recollection and his perspective. We're going to see what Lala thinks about what Brett has to say. So we'll get to that in a second. Sydney from Portsmouth, Maine. Oh, wow, it's beautiful up in Portsmouth. The most difficult part of Big Break was, that's interesting.
The pressure.
Yeah, I thought that's what you would say. No question. Gretchen from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Were you allowed to take any Big Break or Golf Channel gifts or swag home with you?
So I still have my staff bag. I still have my hats. We did get a number of things, which I think we also wore on the show and we got to take home. And my staff bag, other than my last touring bag, is actually one of the things I will never ever throw away. They're stored at my parents' place, and I think on a yearly basis, my mom goes, "Are you sure you want this? It's really taking up a lot of space." I'm like, "Don't you dare not touch my big break bag."
That's cool. Let me ask you, this isn't a viewer or listener question. Because we talked about, at post big break, and were you an instant celebrity? I think the question was I asked you, and you said, I'll kind of be, the answer's going to be disappointing because I really wasn't. I got recognized a little bit, a few autographs here and there. Did that surprise you that you weren't? I mean, is it that people didn't recognize you more? And that's part one of the question. Part two is, it must be a really interesting thing to have in your back pocket when you're sitting down to dinner with some new friends, and in the summertime, and golf comes up, and you go, "Oh yeah, by the way, I played on Big Break." I was like, "What?" I mean, that would be pretty cool. Has that ever happened to you?
It similarly to that. So to answer the first part of the question, I wasn't surprised. It wasn't something that I was really expecting to happen, especially considering that I came straight back to Europe. So
That's right. You did
it's
say
not
that.
something that's as popular here, and I wasn't really expecting, even if people did know about it necessarily, that they would have access to it. So I mean, you could watch it through VPN and all of that stuff. So a large number of people actually did end up tuning in to watch it from the golf community. But other than that, it's not something that just kind of is on TV and you just happen to just peruse through the channels and then you get stuck on it. So I wasn't surprised at all. As for the second part of the question,
It was just about having the information of the fact that you've been on Big Break and.
Oh, right. No, so I tend to, and I did this all throughout being a professional golfer. It's not really something that I ever felt fully comfortable just kind of like parading around, or it would be more of a, "So what do you do?" "I play golf." "What do you mean you play golf?" "Well, that's my job. I play golf for a living. I'm on tour." I think partially because wasn't and still isn't as accepted here. It's not something that is a usual thing to do. So the fact that I wasn't pursuing a normal career made me different, which is a good thing, of course, but I never really felt comfortable to just like throw it out there. So it was more of a, "Hey, you were on that show, weren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Got it. So when I go, I should stop when I go to dinner for reservations and they say Nick Marola from Big Break. I should have him stop saying. That's what I would do. I would have my name in lights. "Yes, of course I'm the Big Break guy. Come on, what do you expect?" And you're hiding it. That's
Yeah, I
fantastic.
think that's the right thing to do. Looking back on it now, I don't know why I ever really was that bashful. I think I just never really fully stepped into that being me, and me really standing by that, and not caring about other people's opinions. And I think part of it was also maybe linked to the fact that I wasn't performing the way I knew I could, and wanted to. So going into, "Hey, this is what I do," the automatic second question is, "Well, how's it going?"
Yeah. I mean, it makes
So
sense. Yeah, that makes. I mean, that makes sense. Couple more questions, and then we're going to talk about the Brett interview that I did and get your feedback on it. Angie from Buffalo, New York asks, "What was the biggest misconception about Big Break?" Boy, we're peeling off every opinion about Big Break you have.
I think the question I've gotten the most, which I interpret as a misconception, is that people actually do think we refilm things and that some of it is staged. The answers that we give, the reactions that we have, the shots that we make or miss, that there's a certain element of control from the crew, which there's absolutely not. So yeah, that would be it.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and I think it's amazing that if that was the case, some of the shots you do see, you're like, people would be going, no, that they should never show that shot, because you guys don't make. It's not every single shot that they show the worm burners. I forgot who I was speaking with the other day. They were in the couples group, and Prang, one of the
Ashley.
Prang sisters, yeah, the one that's the lawyer, and she was saying that her partner, I forgot his name, he just hit one, like he had like a 4-iron, and he hit it, 185 or 90 yards out, and it never left the fairway. He just hit it right and rolled it, and the camera just held on that and froze on it of the ball rolling down the fairway. It was like he must have been tortured by that, watching it. So I think you're right. I think that probably is one of the most or the biggest misconception on the show, because it is real as it gets, folks. Last question is from Christine from Oak Brook, Illinois. She wants to know your best experience on the show, like one experience, something that happened during the show that you were, was your best memory.
It was a combination of the best and worst. I think my last match against Brett was absolutely one of a kind, once in a lifetime experience, and I will cherish it for the rest of my life. So yeah, that's amongst a lot of other really amazing moments, definitely the best one.
It wasn't screaming at Chad for thinking he was fast, right? It wasn't.
Close second.
So good segue right into Brent.
That one passed today.
What's that? No, it's too good. It's too good, because you're like the coolest cucumber, the sweetest thing, and you got this incredible, competitive streak with you, but you're just so even keel. And then all of a sudden he says, well, I'm pretty fast. And you just, you just want to remind him over and over again that he's the farthest thing from fast. But by the way, you made it crystal clear that he's not fast. He doesn't even think he's fast anymore. Let's move in.
Understood.
Yeah. So let's talk about Brent. First thing I want to mention is he tells this story, and I want to know if you had the same similar experience of where you stayed. But so I said, tell me a little bit about the fact. I found it interesting that Big Break sent you guys to New York, which is my neighborhood, and you go into the Macanudo Club and you do all that. And I'm thinking you go to Mexico. So if I'm from like Los Angeles or San Diego, that's a long, hike going back and forth, but it was cool. And he said, oh no, they brought us in the day before. And he said, Nick, I got a cab. And I said, yeah, let me get out the paperwork. And he took the paperwork out, and it said, do you know where the Waldorf Astoria is? That's what he said to a cab. And as a New Yorker, I mean, I don't know if you know that he's never been to New York, and he's like, I'm just a country boy from Tennessee. That's what he said, folks. And but he asked if for anybody in New York or the tri-state area up there, you know that everyone knows what the Waldorf Astoria is. And it was just funny coming from him with his accent. It was just so cool, him saying that. And he goes, and the guy turned around and looked at me and he said, are you serious? And then he said, yeah, I'm serious. And then he realized just by his face, he thought that the driver knew. He goes, yeah, I know where the Waldorf Astoria is. I'll take you there. So that's his story. But you did not mention, did you stay there? Did you?
Yeah.
You did. And you didn't think that was cool to mention to Nick in the first interview?
Sorry. I kind of assumed you already knew. I don't know why.
I didn't. That's cool. I mean, I grew up there. I never stayed there. But anyway, I've been there.
Yeah, so we did. And actually, it had a little bit of a special touch to me as well, because, and I keep coming back to this, I mentioned my ex-boyfriend in the last episode, the boyfriend I was with at the time, and he actually worked in hospitality for a really long time, and he worked at the Waldorf when he was younger, because he studied in the States, and I think he worked there for a few months. So the fact that I walked in there and I was kind of, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And I knew kind of the intricacies of what it means to run the Waldorf, and just the minute details of what makes it the Waldorf. So yeah, that was really cool. And it was old, but incredible charm and just quality. It was really cool. Special treat.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. By the way, you probably should work in something about your current boyfriend in just little
I
tip, friend to
mentioned he's
friend.
a sports psychologist, so
You mentioned that somewhere. I think you mentioned the last
and he's
time.
not here. So really, I don't need to be mentioning him all that much.
All right, fair enough. Let's talk about. So I asked Brent in the interview about the match, and he said that the first thing he said was that he still draws on that experience, or after post big break, he would draw on that experience when he found himself in a situation where he needed to be successful. Right? He said, where I'm too off making the cut, and I need something to happen. I would think back of the 100 or 205 yards out in heavy rough that I had to hit with an iron and put it on the green somewhere and then make a putt. And I did that against, Lala in the competition. And he also said that when I have been looking at a 28-foot putt that breaks and it's downhill, I had confidence then. And he would look back on that because he made a couple of those against you. And so he said he drew on that experience. Any feedback to that? Did you do the same thing after you post or think about that incredible shot you made and some of the amazing putts and shots you made during that match?
Did I think about it? Yes. Did I draw on it? I tried to very hard, because I think that was also kind of the feeling I tried to carry away from Big Break. And it was part of my exit interview. I said I'm excited about what's coming next, because I wanted and was fully convinced I was going to use that momentum to just kind of restart and kickstart the next step of my career. But I didn't actually deliver on that. So I tried to draw on it. I wanted to. It would have been much better for me if I had been able to. I might still be playing if that were the case. So I'm glad that Brent, I wish he hadn't have had those shots in when he was playing me, because then I would have made it further, but I'm glad that he was able to draw on that in his career later on. So he succeeded in what I unfortunately didn't.
He mentioned also a couple more things. He mentioned, I asked him what it felt like going into that and then during it and when it was over. And he said that he was pretty confident going in that he was going to beat you. And when you pushed the first hole, I think with eagles, he didn't doubt your skill. He knew you were a good player, but he thought he would be able to beat you. And then you pushed with eagles, and then I think you pushed with birdies the second time, but you both had eagle putt. Like, it was ridiculous. And he said, everything I did, she countered. And that's where I started to get concerned. I said, you were actually concerned? He said, yeah, I was concerned. He goes, I was concerned. I wanted to get out of this thing. That comment I'll hold for a second, because I want to segue to what we said next. In the interview with you, the first one that we did, you mentioned, or on video, I should say, during the show, you said that Brent must be sick of me by now, right? You mentioned that. You remember recalling that? Yeah. So I asked him about that, and he said he was definitely sick of you by that point. He said, with a lot of respect, but he wanted you to go away and just, finally end it. Matter of fact, he actually didn't think if he made that putt, he made that 25-foot putt to beat you. He was concerned that he wasn't going to be able to beat you in the next hole. He really, really needed to make that putt. That's what he felt. And he said after it, you can see, he said in his Southern accent, he said, you can see, there's not usually a lot of expression on my face, but you can see when I made that putt that I was happy that this thing was over. That's what he said about you. So wanted to pass those things on. He also said to say hi to you, and he sends his love and all that stuff to you as well. So,
well, thank you. And if you talk to him again, please do send it back. It's really nice to hear. And I really, would anybody else, I think, have reacted differently. I went into it kind of assuming that he might win, wanting to give everything I had, and I wasn't going to give up and I was going to fight until the very end. So by no means was I planning on handing it over to him, but it was Brendan, it was me, and he was my favorite, along with Jay, to win the whole thing. So did I kind of think he had the better chance? Of course. And I would have been sick of me at that point too. I was sick of him because he wasn't letting me win. I was throwing everything I had at him and he just wasn't going away.
If you guys don't remember the match, it was go take a look at it on Golf Pass or whatever for the Big Break series. It was absolutely amazing. Liebelei puts, chips one in out of the bunker that is just, and we talked about that and Brent's reaction, and you could listen to the interview on our website, but he talks about it. It's not like it's, there's, and I don't know this being a golfer because I'm not a golfer, real one, but these guys look at putts out of the bunker and say, I think I can make this, right? I'm just hoping to get it on the green in a distance I can knock it in, or lose another 20. But this one was downhill, left to right. It's just, it was annoying. I mean, it was just there's no way you're making this ever. And it was center cut. That's the other thing he said. It's just like, she just drained it. And that was unbelievable. And I mentioned this before, and I have confirmed it. It is the only episode in Big Break history that was to be continued. So they get to put that notch too, which I would be telling everybody if I did it. So that was really cool experience. We will definitely have Brent on. He told us tons of things and exciting things. He went and right after Big Break, when Big Break week 1 started, he was at a golf tournament caddying for someone, and I apologize for not knowing the name, and the person came in second, and where the only bogey he had the whole weekend, Brent gave him bad yardage. He gave him the middle or the back, and the middle, it was 8 yards too long. It was just, he was, oh my God, mortified. But he ended up caddying for the next 6 weeks, including 2 majors and really some high finishes. I forgot who it was. God,
I'm trying to think of it too because I remember it.
Scott something. Oh my! How do you do that in prep? How do the people that put the notes together not have that on the thing?
Was it Scott Stallings?
And was it? I don't know. I have to look it up, or somebody does if they want to stay working here. No, it was really cool. And he said that he traveled all around. So he was watching, because I asked, this all started with, did you have a viewing party? Like, did you, a lot of people did. And he said, yeah, it was usually pizza delivered to my hotel room or room service while I'm watching it on TV by myself, because he was caddying for whoever it was. Some PGA player that was in contention a lot. So yeah, we probably should know that name, but we'll find it out and let you guys know. But he also says he was dating Tara Durham, who was a Big Break he was like, he was like a soap opera with so many different nuggets of information. And, he just went right by it. He said, yeah, the girl at the time I was dating, she was on the show. So I practiced with her a little bit, and she told me about some of the shots. And I'm like, who was that? And he's like, Taryn, is it Taryn? It might be Taryn Durham, I think her name is, but she was on one of the episodes of Big Break, which is really cool. So yes. So Brent, thanks for coming and giving us the Lala information that we passed on. Couple more things before we talk about what you're doing today. And I really want to talk about that because I did a lot of the research myself for post Big Break. And as I told you at the beginning, I just looked up a lot of things. And I want to talk to you about some of that, because what was intriguing to me was the fact that you wanted to carry over with your experience from Big Break and the success that you had in Big Break and how you were playing and all that. And you didn't realize that. And that had a lot to do with why you stopped playing golf. So I want to talk a little bit more about that with you. First, a couple things. Right after Big Break, are you right back into tour action? Are you back? Where are you physically in a geo standpoint? Are you in the States and you're leaving? Give us that perspective. Post.
So I left straight so I flew to New York from Dubai, actually, because I was staying there and practicing over the winter. And then I flew back there when I was done. So for a couple of years, I actually spent a couple of weeks / months in Dubai and or Oman, because my coach was based in Dubai. And then from there, I eventually went back to Europe. So yeah, that's where I was geographically. And there weren't any tournaments at the time, but I was kind of in preseason, off-season, preseason status.
And you started right back the next season, right back in, and regular schedule kind of thing?
Uh, that was the plan,
Yeah.
but I didn't quite make it that far. I think I underestimated the mental state that I was in, and the wear and tear of what my injury and poor performance, I guess, for the lack of a better word, had on me. So when I was actually in Dubai, right before the season was about to start, I think I went back to Dubai, went back home, went back out to Dubai, and that was in April, just kind of as a last tune-up before the season started. And I was burned out, and I think I only realized it after the fact. And now, looking back at my career, I needed help, and I didn't ask for it because I didn't know what was going on. I kind of attributed it to maybe I don't want this bad enough. Maybe I'm just done. And I didn't really make it very much past that. I don't think I played through the summer, actually. I practiced for a while, but I didn't really compete all that much.
What if you stayed in the States, and then again, this is just probably me being an American to think we're the best of everything. Would it made a difference? Would it been a different experience? Would you be more available to people that knew who you were? I mean, I get a sense from talking to all the big breakers that some people do get a lot of, asked to caddy. You get coaches calling up to say, "Hey, I noticed this, and I want to help you here." You get tournaments that just get sponsors exemption because of you've been on big break. So, is that a different? Could it have been a different experience? I mean, I know it wasn't your path, so I get it, but could it have
Yeah,
been?
I mean, hypothetically, absolutely. And I actually did used to have a coach in the States. I mean, I obviously moved to the States when I was 16, and then had a number of coaches there. But even after I graduated, and decided to give the tour a try, I was based in Florida with an incredible coach there, and it wasn't really until I kind of just made the decision to transfer my off-season winter practice to the other side of the world. So with a lot less access to coaches, to sponsors, to a completely different world. So absolutely, I think it could have turned out differently. I think also maybe somebody would have pointed out the fact that, hey, maybe you have a burnout, maybe you should talk to somebody, maybe you should reach out to your sports psychologist, maybe you should do a number of steps to try to kind of help yourself out of this funk. And rather than taking a break, which ended up being a permanent break and then me walking away, could have turned out really differently. So you never know.
So, do you blame your boyfriend currently for not finding you sooner to help you out through this process?
Absolutely.
There you go. Good. No, that's not my question. At what point is this burnout point, the Dubai back and forth a little bit, prep, getting ready for the season? Is this the point that the doubt in your abilities to compete starts to creep in?
Yeah, I think
Before
so.
that?
I'd be lying if the doubt was probably creeping in before that, which I think is also partially a factor which led to the burnout and to begin with. But I think when you're faced with a burnout, which can take on a lot of different faces, but in my case, I'm generally a pretty happy, positive person, and that I wasn't anymore. I would wake up in the morning and have these plans to have an incredible practice session, and I would feel almost frozen, and just start crying because I would feel like I'd have to make myself go practice, make myself go do something which really shouldn't be all that hard to do. So I think it was both a doubt in my ability, and then I think also the doubt in which, I mean, if you put in the work, the chances of you having good results obviously bigger. And so it was a combination of doubting my ability, plus then the worry about the fact that I wasn't putting in the work that I needed to be putting in to perform.
Did you hate golf at the time?
I wouldn't go as far as to say hate, but I hated how I felt, and I attributed part of that to golf.
You struggled with your decision for a year at least. What was the final determination that it was over?
I think my boyfriend walked into the picture somewhere along that long process, and he actually, because part of the issue was also my back, so he even created a little bit of a rehab plan for my back and gave me these exercises to do. And there was a long time in there where there was a potential for me to start practicing again and to kind of like take the step to go back out and see how it feels. And I never took that step. And I think there came a point when I started counting the months. It had been since I'd been out there. And I knew there was no way I could have played on tour at that point. So why start going out now? Why push myself? Why do this? And then eventually my path just kind of drifted. And for the first probably, I don't think I actually admitted to myself that I was never going back for a really long time. Even after I had kind of decided I was done, there was always this little voice in the back of my head saying, well, maybe I kind of miss it. I could still do it. No, that's too far away. So.
Just to remind everybody, we are talking to Liebelei Lawrence from Big Break, Mexico. We've talked 1,000 times about the Brent match. I think it's probably the best part of the show I've seen forever. And now we're exploring post Big Break with Lala. You told us that you missed golf, you missed the life, the travel, the people, that type of thing. You then mentioned that you moved on to going back to school, getting into much more in depth into yoga. Tell us about the next progression of those two things in your life.
So yoga was the first thing to come in, and that was kind of, I slipped into it because I was looking for something to do, kind of a workout that didn't impact my back, because I couldn't run, I couldn't do a number of things, I couldn't go to the gym. So I found, and for those who are into yoga, I started doing Bikram, which is in a heated room for 90 minutes and you just sweat profusely. So that was my form of exercise for a while. And then from that, I drifted to different types of yoga, and decided, hey, I'm not playing golf. I don't really know what I'm going to do in my life. I'm applying to jobs and not really getting any responses. So why not go do a teacher certification? And then while I was doing that, actually, I applied to different programs to get a master's, and I actually finished that process when I was in Bali for my first yoga certification. So it kind of all happened at the same time. And I guess I went to school more, or back to school, because I was realizing that having golf on my resume wasn't really going to cut it in Luxembourg. It's not, like I said before, it's just not as accepted being a professional golfer. And then kind of getting your first/second job at the age of 27, 28, it just doesn't fly here. So I went back to school to give myself a chance to enter the workforce. Yeah, so now my life is completely different.
So, yeah, it's amazing the accomplishments that you make. I'm still trying to understand. And again, as the listeners and viewers know, that I, of course, well schooled in yoga. Not.
Never too late.
But yeah, well, I'm trying to get into meditation. That's a whole other, the transcendental, whatever it's called. I don't even know.
Transcendental meditation. I did that too.
I'm trying to, my sister's trying to get me into it. She's like, Nick, you just need to do it. It's for your heart rate and your whole being. And I'm just trying to, I don't know if that's me yet, but I'll try it. I'll give it a shot. Back to you, most
Fun
importantly.
fact, sorry, just interrupt. I was
Yeah.
doing TM Transcendental Meditation when I actually got my when I qualified for the tour, when I got my tour card.
Really?
Mhm.
Jeez, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm open to any trying, that kind of stuff. But my first reaction when you're saying I have a back problem and you saying that you're doing yoga, and I'm thinking, isn't yoga where you like people have their feet in front of their face and like how is that? I mean, you know what I mean? It's like ladies on her elbow and her foot's right here and her other one. It's no, that's looks like it's fantastic for your back. I mean, I get it with a stretch or whatever, but it's just amazing. So in the research that I did on your social media channels, very inspiring. I have to say, I think you're really, in my view, we've come from different worlds kind of, but in my view, it's just so, there's people that I look to and I say, I wish I was more like them. You're one of those people. Like I read the stuff you write about family and I'm like, I have to plagiarize every single thing on here. They'll never know who I got this from and just put it down about my mother or my brother or whoever. Right. Cause it's so like thoughtful. I talked to you about my love of dogs at the beginning, and you write about your dog that lived to 17, which by the way scares me now because I've never had a lab live by 12. So either I should stop feeding them cheese sticks and wings and only dog food or something. Because when it says 17 years old, I'm like, how did they? That's a whole other discussion. But I want to finish this thought because I always talk way too long. Inspiring stuff, really. I mean, educational. It was just things to make you smile. And I found it, I figured I'd spend 10 minutes on it and all of a sudden I'm, half hour in and I'm reading, in 2013, you were in, Dubai or something or I don't even know, Greece, you're in Greece everywhere. And it was just unbelievable. So it's a new, when you look at, when somebody says, I'm not going to play golf and I'm going to go to school and I'm going to do yoga, you're jumping in like 2 feet, the whole body's going in. This isn't somebody took a class and, and did some online stuff to get her MBA. You know what I mean? This is somebody that just dove in like you do. I imagine you did in golf, right?
Absolutely. I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but I'm an all or nothing type person. If I put my mind to something, I'm going to do it. And those who know me, and particularly my boyfriend, will say that I have addictive tendencies. So thankfully, they have always been directed at something healthy. So in either yoga or going to the gym or whatever, it's something that I want to do, and I want to try and do it well. And I can't go more than one day without doing it because then I start feeling off. So yeah, I jumped in with my whole body into yoga. I ended up doing, actually have 3 certifications. I don't teach anymore, but or at least not for the moment. But yeah, I did that for a long time in school as well. And then once I was done with school, I got lucky enough to get a job right away. And then I do work at 1,000% too, just because golf. I think golfers or athletes in general, and other people as well, eventually you can't work the amount of work you put into something doesn't I don't know how to put this without sounding condescending. I think we have a different assessment of what hard work is. And this is not just for golfers, and this is not just for athletes. I think anybody who has kind of grown up in an environment or lived through an environment where you need to put in a lot because you can only get so far with what you put in. You kind of get used to that. It becomes part of who you are. And not giving 110% never really becomes an option again. So yeah, it's very much a full body, full mind, full me type thing anytime I start something new.
You mentioned last time you were here that you loved golf. You've played it when you were very young. Your dad was an integral part of that. But it wasn't defining you. It wasn't who you are. It was one facet of who you are. And when I did do the research on the website, it it so reflected that it's just not even funny. I remember, because I mentioned it to all the people from the Mexico, it was May of 2013 that, or was it 2013? I think it was May 13th of 2013 that that one debuted. And you had one picture on your Instagram that said, "I miss my team. I wish that we were Benham." And then Jay responded, somebody else responded to say, "Hey, and hope you're doing well," and that kind of thing. And then it was, the next picture was, you twisted like a pretzel in, some class somewhere and God knows where. And it just explained what you had said in that first interview, that, look, this was important to me, and I put everything into it. And then there's a burnout to that, and I had to rekindle a flame somewhere. And something else I loved was that, and something else I loved was to pursuit of my education. And so it's like this continual exploration. Like it just seems like there's a self exploration. I don't know, I'm not that articulate, so I'm doing the best I can, but it just seems like you're just continuing to search places, people, things that inspire you, motivate you, intrigue you, interest you. Is that fair? And golf was one of those, by the way, for a long time.
Absolutely, that's very fair. And I would actually venture to say that was very articulate and very on the point. It is who I am. I mean, you could look at it from a perspective of, maybe I don't know who I am, so I'm kind of looking for that and expanding that and looking for it in different areas, which could be construed as potentially negative or positive. In my case, if somebody were to ask me who I am, I wouldn't be able to give one answer, which, if you're on one path to do one thing, maybe that's a problem, but I kind of like just exploring it and being mix and match of different things. Some fit, some don't. So I'm a potpourri of things, and it's fun. And that potpourri changes pretty regularly too. So if we speak in a few months, maybe it'll be different.
I got two more questions for you, and I appreciate the time. Liebelei Lawrence is our guest today on What Would You Ask podcast. So tell me the three places, this is kind of a selfish question, folks, so I apologize. Three places that you've been to that I just got to put on my bucket list. Oof. And I've only been to Italy, I've been to Europe, but I haven't been anywhere outside of Italy or,
Okay, we're talking countries, not specific spots.
No, specific areas would be great.
Okay, so if you haven't been to Greece, that should be on the top of your list. And also, even though I'm slightly biased to that answer, there are a number of places in Greece, but it wouldn't be fair for me to name 3 places in Greece. So okay. I will say I'm going to combine 2 spots in Greece in one. So Athens, just from a historical perspective, and then Folerandros. It's a tiny little island, Greek island, and it's beautiful. Okay. So I definitely recommend going there. Hawaii, if you haven't been.
I've been to Maui and Kauai.
Okay.
Kauai, I think, Kauai, however you're supposed to say it, the tropical place. It rained for 3 days.
You say tropical place like the Englishman.
Well, I mean, Maui. I stayed at the Kaanapali Resort and played golf there. It was like heaven. I didn't want to leave, and then we went to how do you say it? Kauai. I don't know, whatever it was, and it was just monsooned for like 3 days. And I had a I'll never forget. I had a Mustang convertible, and the top didn't come up, and so we had to really be quick if we were going out anywhere because it was just anyway. It was fun.
Okay, so I'll take that off the list then. I will replace that by Norway.
Really?
Norway,
wow.
Okay. Absolutely incredible. Assuming you like mountains and fjords, it is really beautiful. My best friend is from there, so it's also a little bit biased, but really is a beautiful place. And then I think in order to kind of, I'm keeping it all very European. I think the next place will be think, oh, this is tough. Slovenia.
Slovenia. Wow. Didn't expect that. I got to write that one down.
We went there or did a road trip a couple of years ago and stayed there for a few nights. And you're not, I mean, you can obviously find luxury, but it's if you like nature and if you like hiking, it's beautiful. A lot of other places are as well, but that came to mind. So
No, nature's cool. I'm not much of a hiker. Camping to me is going to a 4-star hotel instead of a 5-star hotel. So, no,
that's
not
a
true.
whole new level of glamping.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. All right, 2 quick ones, and we'll get you out of here. I really appreciate your time, and we've gone over the time I expected. 2 things. One is, have you played any golf at all? 9 holes, miniature golf, any golf in the last 6 months?
No.
No? Wow, I didn't expect that answer. I expect you to say, I went out and played 6 holes and it rained or something. I don't know. Wow, that's amazing.
Sorry. So honest answer, full disclosure, I've only hit balls 3 times in the last 6 years.
Like a driving range kind of thing?
Literally, I haven't stepped foot off of the driving range.
Why? I don't want to lengthen this interview, but why is it just that amazes me? It really does. It shocks me.
Yeah,
Purposely, you've not done that, or people just don't have any interest in doing it.
I wouldn't necessarily. No, it's not that I don't have any interest, and it's not necessarily purposeful either. It comes back to fear. It comes back to the fact that I am terrified that I'm going to go out there and suck. And it's something that I put in so much effort and such a large part of my life, and had reached a certain level, and albeit didn't reach the level I wanted to, but I was good. And now I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be bad. And I'm not a golfer anymore. So yeah, I should accept that. I should come to terms with that and just appreciate golf for what it is. But I'm not ready to face the fact that I'm bad now. So I keep telling I'm embarrassed about the amount of times that I've said, okay, just like tell dad that you want to go out there with him and hit balls, and I'll have it on the tip of my tongue and I just won't say it because I'm scared.
I don't know if that. It shocks me that you say that, and I don't mean this in disrespect. What I think of you, I think you're amazing, but the person that is able to go and tour the world to do the yoga stuff, and the person that got worked so hard to have the ability to play professional golf and under the biggest pressure, national television, to be able to perform the way you did. You sucked before. You sucked at yoga. You fell down. You couldn't even do a handstand, and you fell down and you were embarrassed. And you had to go to a class and do it. And you were very nervous about being there. So you went in the corner so nobody would see you. And you were terrible then. But then you became a fantastic, whatever they're called, yogi. And then you were, when you're hitting balls sideways, and people on the driving range were worried about getting hit because there's no dividers, because you were hitting the ball literally sideways. And then you straightened it out and worked the ball right to left and left to right. And you became a really good putter and really good under pressure. So I guess that's where, like, that part of it, to have that fear or that doubt that you're going to suck when you barreled through that before, right? You smashed that wall down before. I don't know.
I love listening to that. And you're absolutely right. I have done it. But it has taken effort, and it has taken a decision to know I'm bad and to know I suck, but to also know I don't want to anymore, and that's going to take effort.
And a commitment too, right? I mean,
a time commitment and a sacrifice and a decision to do this over something else. And I think and I'm not saying this is logical at all, but I think with golf, and I hope one day this won't be the case, but I think there's kind of like, I just want to snap my fingers and not suck, because I put in the work already. So I don't, I think it's different. I've been through it. I know I have been good. So it's kind of a step back. It's a little bit different in that sense. It's not like starting on a new journey and you're a beginner and you're new to something and it's fresh and you're exploring and learning and progressing. Here it's quite literally just thousands of steps backwards.
I get it. Well, listen, we are so glad that you joined us today and appreciative that you joined us today. And if you're happy, we're happy. I have a feeling this won't be the last time that we chat, but I just really do appreciate the time, and we wish you the best.
Thank you for having me back on. I love chatting with you.
Great. Take care. Keep smiling.